Okay.
because because Erin and I have already been talking, and I'm like, oh, I should have already hit record. Um, I so have you and Kelly met in person?
No.
No,
No, that's the
Mm-mm.
best. And Kelly and I haven't met in person either.
no.
And
And we've
I've
been
known
working together since what,
since
2018?
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, then I feel so honored to feel so connected to you guys, and our connection is so much younger, but I just feel like you're my bosom friends. I just love
I know.
that's what I was saying about
Um,
technology. I feel like it's a take back of technology where everyone thinks that technology is, more divisive or distracting. But I think this is such a cool example of like how opposite it can
yeah.
be. Um, so
That's so true.
Yeah. And not to jump ahead of like what we want to talk about, but that's one thing with like if we talk about motherhood and business, like I don't want to be at a happy hour after hours. I don't want to be, getting up at 7:30 in the morning to go to a BNI meeting and to have that connection. And you need that connection as an entrepreneur. But I get it all day long with my clients and and my team and things, but my clients is like so much of this connection is so real and it's all
mhm.
been electronic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
I could
so
not agree more.
true.
Yeah.
And then you can finish your workday and like go be with your family and like you've filled a lot of those other places of friendship and business and
Yep.
Hmm.
growth and learning and um, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, we're just so this is what we're doing. We're changing things up today on the podcast, and I have invited two dear friends to just come and have coffee and conversation. And there is no agenda other than like motherhood and entrepreneurship and family and goals and dreams and whatever is on your heart. So that's what we're doing today. And even though I'm the host of this podcast, like I want you guys to imagine you're the host today too. Like it's just an interactive conversation and we just get to talk about whatever's kind of bubbling up in our lives right now.
Love it.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
have one right off the bat that's kind of spurred by something you just said, where you're talking about where we fill a lot of the, I don't, you didn't say buckets, but I use buckets for everything, but like you were saying how we get a lot of those needs met during the day. And then one of them you mentioned was learning. And that has been um, one of the best things that's come out of entrepreneurship for me that I didn't know going in that was something like how much of a lifelong learner I am and that is so fulfilled through this because every day is something new I'm learning as a business owner, as somebody who, if I'm not interested in something, can pivot and go do something else and um, or learn something else or change something or go deeper with something. So the learning piece of this has become my favorite part, like that personal development through professional development kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so when you said that, I'm like, oh, I want to make sure we talk about that because that's super important for me. I imagine it is for you both as well.
I don't know how it like couldn't be. Because
Yeah.
I mean, because you're kind of forced to do it regardless
Yeah.
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right?
Whether it's learning
Absolutely.
how to do something that you didn't know how to do that, can feel so daunting before you start, or bumping up against something that is a limit in you and you've got to work through it or you're not going to get past it. And like that piece of the development, yeah, there's a lot of
Hmm.
different components to it.
Yeah. I feel like the idea of like classroom, like, you're all working on a project and you all have different parts and everyone's good at something different or slightly different than you are. And you can just kind of nudge each other as you're working, like, oh, hey, how do you do that? Or like, who do you know that does that well? And I think we've all either learned about each other's work and gleaned another expert, or we've, directly shared an expert with one another, or just shared our insight. And it's, like we're all kind of working together in this virtual classroom and, you know, doing our purpose. And, but we're like alongside each other and learning from each other. And I like that kind of like the school day or the business hours where we're getting to do this. Because it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be an hour long podcast conversation, but it's that like connection, and we can just keep learning on the fly from each other and go deeper when it makes sense. And I couldn't agree more.
I'm
It's
laughing a little bit because I imagine like whenever we're on a call as this group, I've been with you in other groups where this has happened and a book comes up and like everybody's like, what was it? Well,
yeah,
what is it? You can see
yeah.
people
Repeat it, put it in the chat, hurry.
Why is it? Why are we so like needy of that? It's like we don't want to
right?
miss out.
Oh, it must have been a good one. It came up in a call.
Right. Hey, you know what? I'll take FOMO on a book any day, like
That's right.
over something else.
Oh, and I always have a stack of books. Like it's
I
never
know.
I'm just reading one book. I'm reading like three or five, and I've tried to change that, but it's just the way I do it, and it's just the way it is.
I could not agree more. I'm always like, oh, I need to like start something and finish it. I'm like, why? Like, whose rule am I following? Like, I like to do that. I enjoy it. Like when I feel like, oh, you know what? That's the genre I'm looking for. Like I'll pick it up, and I typically finish them all, just maybe not in the time frame or the
Yes.
style. I'm like, who cares? Like, who says I have to read it like that?
Yeah.
I can
And
read
then
them
every
in
now
order
and
or not.
again, and then every now and again, do you just like devour a book like as
Yes.
fast as you can? So
Most
funny.
For
definitely.
sure.
Okay, so I have a question based on what Kelly was talking about is like what's the hardest or edgiest thing that you're having to learn right now?
Right now,
Mm,
I I have one that's kind of been throughout my business, but I do have a right now. So I'm debating. I'm gonna go with my right now is really my leadership. And that's very present to me this year of like, um, I'm working on getting out of the way so that the team, the incredible team that I have, can um, support the business more so that we can keep growing and to match the vision I have for us. But also for their own, all the things that we love about it, people I have love about that too. And it gives them that opportunity to experience that too. And so mine is about leadership, and it's an edge because I'm very careful with the delivery of the client services. And like there's a lot of things that are very important to me about this, but the more I stay in the way, the less people get the impact of what we do. So finding that way to like let go while still maintaining that level of service that is a requirement for me is challenging. It's got an edge. And I bump into it from time to time and then we work on it. Yeah, that's a big one.
well, um, I what comes up for me, and actually Kelly and I have talked about this recently, and you and I, Carla talked before we hit record. Um, I am in a really different season of my business evolution. I have been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire professional career. And my first business, very successful from a financial and client standpoint, very referral based. I did not work hard to get clients or to grow. I helped my clients grow, but it was not something that I had to necessarily engage in for my own growth. Um, 2.5 years ago, I just felt the call in my heart to shift where my business was going. Um, Not a ton of clarity, but it was just, I don't know. I had a gut feeling, a call in my heart, and I did it. And so I feel like it's probably not edgy or like sexy sounding or anything, but really leaning into small, consistent action and not giving up on that consistent action to see the long term goal or level realized is where I'm at. And kind of along the lines of the conversation you and I were having, Kelly, this not chasing the shiny thing, but finding that thing that is that base foundation level that, whether it's zone of genius or just what you know is good or know is right, um, really allowing that to be, and being consistent there and not chasing the shiny, or not learning something new and going, oh, maybe that's it, but just being really consistent, and trusting that consistency is kind of, maybe for me, that edgy kind of thing. And I feel like it goes for all of my life. At this age, I need to be consistent with the way I move my body, how I eat, the supplements that I take, the spiritual activities that I have in my daily. Like, I have to be consistent in all of those things. And I think before this age, like, I could be more hit or miss, or like, it was just different. And now, like, consistency is, yeah, that's the name of my game.
So
Could I
good.
expand on that thought of like the not chasing a shiny object? And then Carla, I don't want to lose that question because I want to hear your answer to it too. But I find this a lot. And this may not be exactly what you're referring to, Erin, so I'm not putting this on you at all, but um, people can feel like something's not working. They've got a little success with it, but it's not what they had really envisioned. So it's not working. So it's like, okay, scrap that and create something new. And that happens a lot, a lot. And what it what it really often is it just hasn't caught yet. Like there takes that time of like people knowing you're out there and building that reputation and the word of mouth to get out. And so for people to have results from what you've done, and then they're kind of a walking testimonial, like all that takes time. And this story may not be particular to the listeners, but I'm going to share it. But there was a guy I met. It was about a year and a quarter ago. And he actually ended up helping us with some outsourced bookkeeping. But I knew this guy had it. Like he had everything you need. Like easy to talk to, knew his stuff, um, had his system set up. Like he was ready to just blow up. And he was at this timeline in his business that I remember being at in mine. And I'm like, you just keep doing it, keep doing it. And I was just like in his ear, and we were just friends, and he had helped me a little bit. So we were just kind of talking on Facebook Messenger. I'm like, just do it, just do it. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I saw him post in the Facebook group looking for somebody to subcontract for him like he did for me because he
Oh,
was too busy. And I was like, oh my God. And that's like that. Like sometimes I can even sense it, like somebody's just about to get there. It's like that the cartoon they show where the
Mhm.
person's digging for gold and they start walking away and they're like right there where the gold was just gonna, if they hit the wall a few more times, they're gonna be at the gold. That's where he was. And I can feel that sometimes with my clients and or with things I see, or this friend slash former contractor. And that crushes me when people walk away too fast from that, because I'm like, you're right there. And I'm not always right, but I sometimes I have that sense of it. And it's just that moment where we want to give up when it's just about to work.
Mm.
So,
I love
Whew.
that. I'll take it. You can place that on me.
um, well, I think that my growth edge yeah, the edge we were talking about is both, like a combination of both of what you talked about. And your story, Kelly, is like just the other day I journaled and I was like talking to God in my journal, and I'm like I'll just hit those moments where I want to like throw in the towel and just turn the other way, and I don't really, but
yeah.
it's like this part of me that does, right? It's not the whole of me. And like what I heard back was just like, it's just getting good. Like, don't stop.
Mhm.
And it's exactly
Mm,
what you were
so
saying.
good.
And I think this last year has been so much like faith to just show up and not have it all figured out and not know the next step until I know the next step. And I just have had to be so consistent, to your word, Erin, of just showing up and trusting that the next step will get revealed. And like things haven't turned out like I thought they would. The new year hasn't exactly started like I thought it would. And it's just like, I know that I just have to keep stepping. And then the other edge is the leadership piece. Like that's, I think, um, I've for so many years, like wanted permission and approval and like, go do this, Carla. And like, I just need to do that for myself. I need to double down on that. And that's what this year is all about, is just doubling down on the vision that's been in my heart forever, you guys. Like talk about the through line in our lives, in our businesses. Like it's never changed. And so, yes, I can totally relate to both and the getting out of the way so that other people can support and contribute and play in this arena that we are
Yeah.
creating.
Two little things came to mind as you were just sharing that in my own, like sometimes wanting to walk away. Like I remember when I was pretty new and every once in a while I get frustrated, like how am I going to find the next client? And I would go look at Indeed at a job posting and be like, nope, like, that's not
Nope.
going to happen. I am unemployable now.
Yeah,
And
the
then
no is clear.
Oh,
yeah,
me
yeah,
too.
yeah. And then the other thing would be like, as it grew, sometimes I'm like, I could just have a little book of business and be doing it myself and be, and then, and that's not really what I want and how I want to serve, my clients or, I love having this team, but it's like, you have to have those reality checks once in a while to be like, no, that's just the frustration or that whatever is coming up in that moment, that feeling you have. But sometimes a little kick in the butt reminder doesn't hurt either. A little bad Indeed posting.
I feel like it's this tension between taking control and taking action and like allowing and letting
Mhm.
and releasing control. And that's just kind of like I don't know, the purpose of our lives. Like how much can we, dig in and take control of what we're doing and where we're going and the actions that we take, and how much can we both allow like at the same time. And for me, what comes up is, I help my clients build a brand, and in that is articulated, and it turns out it's in a document, and it becomes kind of this third party decision maker where you can help yourself get out of the emotional part of it and decide I did these things, I said these things, that's where I'm gonna lean my actions. I know where I'm going. I've decided that this is the path, the tack that I'm taking. But you're in control to also allow that to evolve. It's not like a static thing. But it does create this when you don't maybe have community or you haven't built a team. It's a wonderful like third party that goes, no, my decision's been made. Like I already know what we're doing, and I'm going to keep going. So
That is so true. I mean, the accountability piece and the like, I've been practicing this year, like starting my day with looking at my vision and my goals for this year and then doing a little bit of writing. And that is so powerful for me
mm,
to remember what I've declared and what I'm up to. Like it's not I am such a feeling based person that I have to really watch my feelings because they can be all over the place. And that
mm-hmm.
vision and those goals are what like help me align and stay consistent every day. What is it
Mm.
for you guys? What does that look like?
um I have to do like all three things. For me, like I have to move, and I have to like allow like none of the like thought part to be there. I have to like create space. Like Kelly and I actually talk about this a lot, like kind of the creativity part. I'm not necessarily doing like a artistic creative part, but I'm getting at the like the release of the maybe the more linear or logical or like ruminating on thought part by moving. Um, that's kind of a newer thing for me. I have to do that every day or my mind gets really cluttered. Um, and I have to feed my spirit. And for me specifically, that's, prayer and um, with all my exposure and relationship with Carla, like I'm doing so much more writing. Um, and that's just like it just makes so much of a difference. I watched this, like, I don't know what you call it, like a reel or something with Mel Robbins, and she was interviewing, I don't know, some important doctor, and they were talking about like the realization of your goals and achievement and such. And um he talked about these very simple, like, you need to use your senses, you need to write it, you need to say it out loud, you need to do that consistently. You could get creative with it, but it was all these like routine acts, both physical and mental, like visualizing, meditating on it, that help something come to fruition. And so for me, that looks like I'm absolutely thinking and planning, and but in a physical way, I'm writing things out and I'm moving so that I can kind of detach and let my mind both rest and make its own connections.
Mm.
So I don't know if that totally answered the question, but that's what came up for me.
Yeah, that's so good.
I'm so glad you guys both shared this first because I'm like, what do I do? But
I know what
but I
you
really
do.
do. I do. I have a lot of things in place. So it took a little bit of like hearing you reflect that helped me recognize the things I do. Like I have my income tracker that's you guys know about that where it's got I can color it in and I can make it there's something about um the environment for me, like having that pretty environment and having like a pretty piece of paper, like even though I'm so linear in what I do, like that piece is just so critical for me. So I have a lot of practices like that. I have my daily kind of to-do type thing, but there's even in that, there's some opportunity, like I have little icons I draw in every day and just certain things that kind of help me touch that more creative side. But when I think back, like at the different stages of my business, there's always been a decision, sometimes also with a vision, mission, purpose kind of update. And there's some choices we're making now, or like some work I'm doing where we're planning into the future, and we're kind of at a choice point where we can go one direction and keep the bit like the future vision of the firm looking kind of like mom and pop, just kind of us running this until we maybe sell it eventually or a much different vision for it. And I didn't even realize I was up against that until I was working with somebody yesterday and that came up. And so I think we encounter those points where we have to make choices and decisions. And then it's how do we stay present to them after that? So those other pieces of
Mm,
the visiting it daily or having your goal list or having my trackers, those are all ways that we stay present to that decision. And I what I'm recognizing right like live in this moment is that I've habitualized so many of them that I don't, that they are just
Mm,
my true practice at this point. There's others I want, there's other
yeah.
things I want to bring in, but I'm going to celebrate that in this moment that those, it's just what I do. So I don't even recognize it as,
mm.
you know, it's just part of the habits. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that too. I'm going to celebrate it. I do want to say last
I
year we started one it's a CEO scorecard. And my husband works in the business with me, as you guys both know. And for a while, it was just me kind of creating it and keeping it up. And then he took over on that a few months ago. And we didn't keep up with it in January because we were in 1099 land and it's just so busy and year end. And we got back to it this week. And I recognize what a difference maker that process is. And we measure certain marketing things on there. We measure revenue goals on there. We measure things with the team on there. And so having kind of whatever you want to call it, a scorecard or a dashboard, or I don't care what, some type of tracker, I think can be important too, so that it takes the feelings out of that too. Like it allows you to kind of check in and get a different perspective than
Well, and
just
it
what you're
creates a
feeling.
structure for like revisiting
Yeah.
those things, especially if you're doing it with someone else. Like that is so incredibly helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Because if it's
It's
just on my
accountability.
calendar and I'm just showing up, I don't always show up,
right.
Right.
you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Um, so a question came up like when you were talking about vision is one thing that I like, and I imagine you guys are this way too, that like I am naturally out like 10, 20, 50 steps in the future, like imagining things and seeing where things are headed. But it's a constant, I guess, practice or tension of like being out there and being back here. I think you said something like that, Erin. But it's like staying in the present moment and what we're doing today, and also sort of knowing where things are headed and gradually steering the ship in that direction. Do you experience that? What does that look like in your life and business?
I have kind of overarching life goals that my business is a vehicle for. And that it encompasses everything. I think I'm a really like kind of holistic thinker. I'm never just in my business. My business is, like I said, it's really a vehicle for other things. I think it's a vehicle for money. I think it's a vehicle for time freedom. It's a vehicle to be my best self for my children and my husband. And so my goals always encompass all of it. I can't separate them, I guess. Uh, my actions, though, that lead there is where the separating kind of comes for me, and maybe that is normal or everyone looks at it that way. But I my daily, weekly, monthly activities are I'm sometimes I probably spend too much time there and can get bogged down in the minutia of that, but those routine things are I spend a lot of time like making sure that I'm kind of making the tweaks that get to that place, but it's from a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and quarterly adjustments, I guess, um, along the way.
So good.
Such a good question. We'll just see where I go with this because I have a couple thoughts bubbling up, but I don't really know that they're going to be cohesive. So we'll see how it goes. But um, I feel like I've always been a daydreamer. Like I'm always like living in some vision, and it's very easy for me to access that. Or there might be something that's some it's a little judgment coming in this. Sometimes it's in like if I'm experiencing so let's say I go to a place, I'm getting a service of some kind, and like the service isn't what I think it should be, or I see an opportunity. It's so funny how the daydream I can create that I've recreated that whole business like in that moment.
Love
And I
that.
walk around life kind of thinking that way, which is kind of funny. But for my own, I think sometimes I don't always connect them. Um, and this is the part I want to talk about something that shifted last year, but like even just that conversation this week of like some decisions I'm trying to make and I wasn't able to make it. And it's because I haven't decided the decision today I couldn't make because I haven't made that decision about where I really want our future to go in this pivot point. So that's an opportunity where I think I've got my vision down, but like this is very specific to the business and what decisions we make now that are going to get us to where we want to be. So we need to decide where we want to be. So I'm very much in real time experiencing that
Oh yeah.
this week where I didn't have that perspective.
Hmm.
On the other hand, I started along with the CEO scorecard last year, I started doing the quarterly planning, and I've been really resistant to um, taking the amount of time you need when you're really doing that type of work. Like I tend to be like, get the work, just working on the work. And you really, as a CEO in your business, you have to take that time to get out of the work, make the plan. And when I'm doing the quarterly planning, it starts with a vision process. So that's helped me a lot to get more in touch with that quarterly. I don't know why this thing has popped up. I don't know, like I really couldn't even tell you why this popped up this week, except I think we hit some goals faster than we expected to. And so some decisions are coming up faster. And I haven't done my quarterly plan for when I thought I'd be making this decision. So I feel like that's helped me a lot. And it's, probably a 6-hour process on a Friday every quarter. I'm trying to bring that more into monthly and weekly and daily planning. I do it a little bit, but it's more in the abstract than it is in like a real process. So that'll be what I'm working on this year. But I don't know. So I don't know if that answered it, but I've got pieces of it. But I think every once in a while, like that bigger vision can change. And I think things changed faster than I was caught up with it. And so I have to have some conversations and do a little work around that in order to make my next decisions and make my next plan. Does that make any
Is
sense?
your, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Is is your quarterly planning, is that a solo process or something you bring
No,
your
it's a
team
group.
into? A group.
Oh, I don't bring my team. It's me and another group of other people.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that's a good thought, though. I like that idea of bringing the team into it more, or at least a few people. Um, I discuss it after because there's projects that come out of it, but I haven't really brought them into the planning. But we do sometimes the project is then to make the plan. So like it's more of a um like I know this is a system I want to fix for next time. So I've got that as a project, but the first step in that project is the team working on that together, like an offsite type thing. We did that a lot last year to move big projects through or they wouldn't have happened. But that's a good thought. There's an opportunity there that they could come into that. Yeah. Thank you.
I love that.
Hmm.
I think what comes up for me there is that, and maybe this is some judgment on myself, like you kind of mentioned, but I think sometimes maybe my vision is could be so far out, and so maybe big that it's not maybe distinct or defined enough. I'm very good at the daily, weekly, monthly, like quarterly, like this is what I'm going to do. But it's almost like, kind of as we're having this conversation, there's the disconnect might be too far. And something in there might be like, well, I can, if I don't achieve it, then it was too far anyway, right? And so while I can be good at the consistent, and the showing up, um, if I can refine that vision or bring it a little bit closer, I can maybe keep myself a little bit more accountable. So just a little like
I think
honesty.
that's a huge, I think that's a huge piece of it for me. And I don't know that you're going there, but I always go here. For part of it for me is getting real with my numbers. And even though
Sure,
I'm a
sure.
numbers person and I do it all the time, there was like a little bit of magical thinking going on. And since I've gotten more real with that and leaving room for magical thinking, because I really like magical thinking, but in getting a little more real, it makes it so that I can actually hit them instead of it being abstract and too big and too far out in the future. So I think you're
Hmm,
landing
hmm.
on an important piece right now. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Kelly, like, are there any from your line of work, like things that are bubbling up this year is important that we should be paying attention to when it comes to
Huh.
money and
How many more hours do we have? And actually, even then, who knows? There's a lot bubbling up, Carla, but I don't know how much of that you
Yes.
want me to share here.
Well,
Um,
maybe just a
I
few highlights we can be thinking about.
Yeah. I think for as business owners, I think the most important thing, because I think there's a lot of unknown right now, and there's a lot of possibility to go into fear. And I know that no matter what, that fear won't serve us. So that's not where we need to go. What we need to focus on is connection, service, rapport, community, um, and doing our best work, and staying out of the fear and the what can happen and like just focusing on what we do well, build connections, stay in touch with people, make sure you understand what they want and need. That's going to be the answer,
Mm,
to work our way through it.
Agreed.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of things out of our control. And so we can't try to control them. We can control the things we can control. And that's a big part of it. The connection, the community, the services we're providing. Yeah.
so good. Anything from your clients, Erin, like from your perspective of brand and marketing that feels
um,
extra important this year?
Um, well, I think just echoing what Kelly's saying and deciding what your modes of doing those are. Like what is the path, what is the action, the tactic, the strategy that you're taking to make that connection, to be more visible so that somebody's aware of you. Deciding what those 2 to 3 things are and just doubling down. Because I think there are a lot of unknowns, and I don't, you know what? I don't care what's happening. There's unknowns. And so,
Always.
uh, I think that you can always win with relationship, and you can what find your ways to do that best. I think personal one-to-one outreach is such an incredible way to make connections, and I think we use these bigger platforms, whether it's an email newsletter or it's social media, or even going to a local event or doing group coaching. These are group kind of wider audience spreads, and there is, I think, this is the time to keep that one-to-one outreach and connection, whether it's a DM, whether it's an old school phone call, whether it's a text message, whether it's a direct email. I've recently been working with a client who has a retail business, and we kind of tested out, like, how can we move from everything she does is on an audience basis, and I think that's true for a lot of us. And in the retail space, it's even more maybe bizarre to think of a one-to-one action. And so we started working on one-to-one DMs, one-to-one email outreaches, and she had wonderful traction, wonderful sales increases. And it was, some of it I think was about that unexpectedness, and I think that we all can benefit from going, how do I want to connect and build on that in a one-to-one, like a real way, instead of an audience basis. I just had somebody reach out to me at a DM, and again, somebody I've never met in person, um, on social media, and asked me. If she wouldn't have asked me and she just made a post about it and said something was an opportunity, I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. But because there was a personal outreach, like, we're going to talk. And I think that that personal outreach is maybe more important now than ever.
I love that so much. I think yesterday I just felt like a nudge to like reach out to a past client. Like she just came to mind and I thought I'm just going to send her a little text. And we had done some really important work around her elderly father. And I sent her a text and just said like, how are you? And how is your dad? And she sent a text back like he had passed like last week. And I was just so glad that I listened to that nudge to like touch base with her right then,
Mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm,
so I think there's so much to what you're saying. Like it's so easy for me to get caught up in like, oh, I should be doing that or this or that. And the one-to-ones are always the most impactful. I had a lady talking, we were talking about like the way all three of us got connected. And there was a lady that reached out to me, I think it was like last year, maybe the year before. And she did a video email and she like had clearly listened to the podcast and like shared exactly like what she would love to talk about and how it fit, and it was so personal, you guys. And now she's come on like twice. I've been on her to speak to her audience. Like we are building a relationship too, and it's all because of that personal reach out that you talk about. So
I think I want to just
okay.
highlight, like,
Yes.
always trust the nudge too. Like, you know,
mm-hmm,
Carla, we don't need to make this long. I think we've shared it on the podcast before, but like Carla and I met because we were both on a call. I said something that she wanted to learn more about. And then she was like, I want to connect with that person. And then we got connected after. And I mean, here we are. So going on 7 years later, like, over 6 years later. And, and she trusted that like gut reaction and spoke up and made the connection. And then it went from there. And I think, that I always hear when people are like, somebody popped into my head and I just connected with them. And it's always because they were meant to, and
mm-hmm.
so always trust that nudge and take action on it.
So true. So
Yeah,
true.
I love that.
So I'm curious. I want to hear a little bit about like family, marriage, parenting, like business. Like, how does this all integrate with your business right now? Like, what season are you in? What does that look like? Like, I'm just curious because I know it's such an important part of all of our lives. And like Kelly, your husband is integrated in your business. My husband is integrated in my business. I'm not sure about you, Erin, but like, yeah, I want to hear about that
Nope.
part.
My husband and I are 100% opposite personality types. And so actually that could be like a really good mix in our business or in my business. And he's got a lot of education and brand and marketing and culture building. He's phenomenal, but he does not work in my business. It's
I'm
fine.
going to call you out
It's
just for a
fine for right
second
now.
though. Like he doesn't work in your business, but he has like read through your course and given you feedback and stuff. So there are ways
Oh
that he has
yeah.
been integrated.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
deserves that credit too. He has been not only really supportive of this transition that I've made. So essentially, just for the reader's edifice, like I'm doing the exact same work that I've always done. I'm focusing kind of honed in on a specific audience. So I'm very interested in helping women be able to realize what it is that they want to realize in their life through their business and helping them build brands and so that they can market those well and feel good about it and have it be in alignment with their life. That's where my heart is now. And so, anyways, he's been really supportive of that transition, and he's been right there alongside of me, reading my materials from that outside perspective, and making sure that the things that I'm creating and the ways that I'm talking about them um, aren't too small, I guess is the only way I can say. It's not just only from my head and what I think people need, but how where does this land, and actually that personal connection component, going backwards a little bit, that really, by reaching out personally, you really learn and hear what people need and where they're at and
Mhm.
what services actually will meet them where they're at. Because I think we can all go, this is my zone of genius, or this is what I'm good at, or this is what I feel confident in, but it may not match up exactly. And for me, that work in what your brand is really hones in what those services are. And it's a mutual thing. I just had a conversation with somebody over coffee yesterday, and she's growing a business. And that initial place, I think, can really come from what am I good at? And while that is absolutely valuable and it really needs to be part of the sauce, that second part is, and what is needed, and how does that person I want to serve, how are they going to receive it? And so it's aligning those two things up, not just this is what I'm good at. So Chad's been very good at helping me with that, and I'm totally like lost train of what am I talking about.
How
Chad's been really helpful.
family and
Oh,
marriage
and
and
yeah, and I think so for somebody who, I would say, I'm not the best at boundaries in a lot of ways, but when it comes to work and home, I'll call like kids and husband and family relationships, I have very strong boundaries on my work day and when that begins and ends. And I kind of turn that off and focus on my kids and my relationship with my husband, and we help with his parents, and so I am not a good multitasker, and so somewhat forced, like I have to turn one thing off so that I can be present and address the other. So I guess that kind of boundary, business hours is like a really big thing for me. um Business hours, I'm business, and then when that's over, then I shift gears.
Love that.
yeah, it's kind of an interesting evolution for me. I'm not as well boundaried with my time as Erin is, that's for sure. But it's funny because like it does, because Justin's here, it's interesting to see how that navigates into our life too. And um I think we do. So he and I worked together. We met at work, then we worked at different places, and then we had a little business together. We used to have this like a flipping bit, like furniture and antiques and stuff. We had this flipping business,
Oh, fun.
which was very
Mhm.
fun. And although I was like wanted to build it because I'm just built this way. I wanted to build it in a big thing. He's like, remember when this was just fun? And we went to we sold a couple things and went to it. Everything to me is like kind of build it and be this big business. But we had fun with it, but we navigated things a few times and we know that that works for us. Like that, this was not like a big guess when he was when we were working towards him coming into the business, we knew how that relationship worked. And so we moved pretty effortlessly into that. Every once in a while, there'll be a little like something we have to work through that's extra because of that. But I think that's just like we would if you were working with any coworker. So we navigate that very well, but we also know it's a formula that works for us. But I was thinking about like the transitions we've been in. I mean, my business, we've hit 7 years in this form. We'll just say hit 7 years. And a lot of that was because of Lily. Like that was the catalyst. She was the catalyst for me kind of making the decision to do this. And I was working at another small business. I love small business, that's for sure. But it was an odd hours, and there were times I was getting home and kissing her good night. And that was like I just couldn't keep doing that. I knew I didn't like that. And so she was a big catalyst for this. And then she's grown up as the business. She's 12 now. And so she's grown up as the business has been created. And there's been times where the business was 100% in our home. And the last several years I've had an office too. And she likes to come hang out at the office. She says it has a good aesthetic and that she likes to do her homework here. So she comes and hangs out with me here. So
Aw.
I
it's
love
like
that.
totally, I love it. But it's like totally, she also digs, like she tries to find all the snacks we have in the office and rates the
Of
snacks. But
course.
we have a very good, like, it's very much integrated in our lives. And I love that. And I feel like we have it balanced, not necessarily always from a time perspective, but from a relationship perspective, it's very well balanced and it doesn't overtake all the relationships. And I love that she's kind of growing up in it and kind of seeing how that forms things for her. Like she did, I don't know if this is good or bad, but she made a comment yesterday. We were talking about college and different things. She was just asking these questions, and something came up. Something, I don't know even know how we got there, but she said, "Oh, I really don't have to worry about it. If I don't find anything, I could just get a job with you." I'm like, I think I need to
Aw.
process it. But of course she could,
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
like she really for a long time was saying that she never wanted to be an accountant or do any of that. And I don't necessarily have a vision for her doing that, but I think in sometimes in her mind, it's like she has that thought that that might be what she does. So it'll be very interesting to see how that
Mm,
plays out. But
I
mm.
love that.
I guess it's super integrated. We balance it well. We take our time off. We have fun. We play. Um, I would like to do more of that this year. That's really my theme for this year. Um, but it's integrated for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said it's been an evolution. Like, oh my gosh, like I started my first business in 2002 when my oldest son was born. And so it's just been part of their life
Yeah.
always. And it's been in so many different iterations of like, having office hours and not having office hours. And today it looks like just one big blend because Quentin's so integrated and oh my gosh, shout out to our husbands, right? Like he's just heard all the things for all the
Oh
years
yeah.
and I mean, that's why these friendships like with you guys are so important because there was a time where I realized like, whoa, he's hearing way too much of my stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
today, like the evolution of that is that like I genuinely feel like he now loves to talk about it. And it's so integrated with how we live life and what we teach and how we do our own life and marriage that it's just literally all one big, big, big piece. And I don't have really boundaries around work hours anymore. It's all like I sort of follow my energy more now, but I definitely have like very strong intentions and commitments around making sure that like my brain rests and turns off and like learning to do that's been a huge thing and that I have time for my marriage and time to have fun and if Shane walks in my office during the day if at all possible I can stop everything or he wants to go to the grocery store like those are my priorities like I don't know how long he's going to be here so yeah, it's been an evolution for sure. Ladies, this has been so rich. I love you
How did
girls. I
that
thank
time
you
go by
for,
so
I
fast?
know.
I
I feel like we just
know.
started.
I know. I do too. So before we close, share a little bit about something about I don't know. I will introduce you both have been on the podcast before, and I will make sure I share about what you do when we start. So you don't have to do that. But is there anything in your business you'd like to share or something you're up to or just anything in closing that you didn't get to say that you're wanting to say?
Mm, I
I
have
I think
a weekly newsletter and that. I love that space. That's where a lot of personal connection happens for me. Um, I communicate with a lot of my people that way. So, anybody listening that wants more connection, sign up for my newsletter. And
I
through
love
that,
your
you can find
newsletter.
out. Oh, thank you. I love writing it. It is like it's both business and passion project at the same time. I writing is just something I've always loved doing, and so yeah, I love it. Every week I'm there. Um, yeah, and through that you can see my services, and I have a
Everything you're
course, and then I have
doing.
some done for you options, and um, I love what I do.
It's
Cool.
clear that was kind of an awkward transition, you guys, but I just want to make sure that people know about what all the
Yeah.
amazing work that you're doing because that's the whole goal. Like we're all on islands doing this thing by ourselves, and I want to amplify what you're doing. And so sorry about the awkward transition.
That's okay. I was like,
I'm gonna continue the awkward transition and just say that I too love Erin's newsletter, and my newsletter wouldn't exist without hers because she helps me with mine. So I'm very grateful for her.
I
But
love
I just
that.
kind of want to put like an exclamation mark on the things that came up about connection. We didn't say the word authenticity, but I know that's an important one for all of us. And but just meaning be real. Like there's no highlight reel here. We're all very real in our lives and what we share and with each other. And I think that's really a key piece of it. And I'm so grateful for the relationships. Like it's the thing that I think there was a little part of me that hoped for it because I knew I wanted to work with people I loved and cared about and that were doing things I cared about. That was intentional. But I mean, I get to end calls with love yous and blown kisses and all
yeah.
kind, like who I never dreamt that. And it's so important to me to have that. And so we've created this community one relationship at a time. And so if anybody else is out there listening and they're an entrepreneur and doesn't have that, like find your people. There's
Mm,
no need to be in a bubble. There's lots of ways to find your
yeah.
people and
Yeah.
um,
Reach out.
put that time into
Reach
it.
out. Yeah.
And yeah, and reach out. Yeah.
Send the email, make the text, make the DM, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow the nudge. Follow the
That's
nudge.
Mm,
right.
Well, and I think just in closing, it just feels like, I don't know, what I'm left with is like entrepreneurship, motherhood, marriage, all of it is a journey. And you can just see, like, I just feel our, unfolding and our evolution still, even after being years into this. It's just, it's so full of so many rich things. And thank you so much for coming and trying this and doing something new. And I just appreciate both of you so much. And I hope this
mm.
was really valuable for you listening. And I just hope you all have a really, really amazing day. So thanks for being here, ladies.
You.
Thank you.